Monologue.com.
Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Stop Mass Hysteria, Michael Savage.
Yeah, you better go your own way. This is the Savage Nation, always going its own way. What you're about to hear in this program may disturb you, but I can't help it because that's me. And the main question is, and it's a really important question because I don't really know who's going to win what. I can be here like, a cheerleader and say we're going to win. We don't know who's going to win. But I'm feeling something that I've got to express. Because the day I can't express what I feel is the day I will be gone from radio. Are you as excited about this election as you were about electing Trump? Has your enthusiasm somewhat waned? Or worse yet, are you simply not going to vote in this election, and why? Now, if 2016 was the biggest year for immigrants flooding into America, and I mean illegals, why hasn't Trump fixed it? And why will Trump go on every show, including left-wing shows, except the audience that put him in power? And while we're at that, who do you fear more? Who would be more vicious and psychotic as a speaker if the Dems win, Nancy or Maxine? And while we're at that, what do you fear most about a Democrat victory? And while we're at that, what do you fear most about a Republican victory? Because America's divided. And while my audience is certainly skewing to the right, it always has, it's not solely skewing to the right. I speak to an awful lot of independents, and I don't know where they stand. I know this. I know that we're $22 trillion in debt, and both parties want more war. That's all I know. And I've said this to you for years. All the years I've been in radio, I've said the same thing. When both parties agree on an issue, you can agree on one thing. We, the people, are getting screwed. So last night, I found a story that reaffirmed everything I feared about the so-called Republican Party. And I posted it on Twitter. I said, Koch brothers want anchor babies to stay. I told you in my book they make a killing on illegals. They're both pro-mass immigration. They're both GOP mega donors. They're both billionaires. And yet they oppose Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship. So tell me what the difference is at the top of both parties. If you have Bill Gates and the others on the left running to the left of center, and you have the Koch brothers on the right running to the right of center, does it really make any difference to we the people? Don't they really determine the policies of this nation by determining who is in office? And maybe we're going to go back to what America was before Trump came along, which is, who cares? I know I'm supposed to sit here and pound the drums and tell you to go out and vote. Your life depends upon it. I'm not so sure it depends upon it. I'm not so sure. The only thing that's going to change, only a few things would change if there was a Republican sweep, which there won't be. And pretty much we all agree that even if the Republicans squeak by, they're not going to have the power they have now. And look what they've done with their power. What have they really done for you? What have they really done for you? What have you gotten out of this great revolution that we had? Tell me what you got out of it. Now, I know you're all afraid of the illegal aliens marching to the border. And that's another question I have to deal with. We certainly need to secure our border, but we didn't get the wall we voted for. That's number one. So far as I know, not one brick has been laid. We kept hearing build a wall. I don't know. Maybe there is a wall that I don't know about, but there is no wall that I know about. They certainly could have gotten it started. They don't want a wall. The Republicans want the illegals here. Forget about the voting. They don't care who votes. They run the country anyway. Whoever has more money wins. So the illegals would be pouring in order to make sure that the machine, the engine, the economic machine keeps running. As far as the immigrants from Central America go, Mexico and Central America, That's a question that actually needs to be discussed. If you're an extreme right-winger, you see every one of them as a potential rapist and killer, and you don't like them, period. If you're an extreme liberal, I can name a few, they've never met an illegal who wasn't better than a white man. I'm giving you the two extremes. To guys like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, even though they're both white, they have never met an illegal alien from any of these countries who's not superior to a white indigenous American. To those on the right, they've never met anyone coming from these countries that they're not afraid of in some way. But the vast majority of Americans are way in between that. We all live in the real world. We all eat, sleep, drink, work in America. You've certainly rubbed shoulders over the last 20 years with people from these countries. In many ways, the people we meet are just like us, aren't they? Aren't they very much like our ancestors in terms of coming here and working hard? And so, therefore, what is it that we fear? Is it a demographic change? And if so, well, does that really matter? If you want to look back into the waves of Europeans that came into this country around the time that my grandfather came to this country, which is around, I think, 1918 or 1920, when we had the largest waves of immigrants in the nation's history up until that time, where approximately the same percentage of foreign-born Americans comprised the population that it does now. Tell me that every Irishman who came here, every Jew, every Italian was a sterling citizen, and you'll be lying. I mean, let's be clear. There were gangs coming in with the Jews. They were known as Murder Incorporated. There were gangs coming in with the Italians. They were known as whatever, the Mafia. The Irish gangs yielded two presidents, so far as I know. The bootlegger, Joseph P. Kennedy, I mean, he was the drug dealer of his time. The Kennedy family, when you think about it, the darlings of the liberal left, their fortune was built on blood and violence. Everybody knows that. The old man was a genius, a bootlegger, gang leader, made his fortune, and did what every gang leader does. He sends his son to Harvard. And then what happens is, after two generations, what was red becomes white. It gets washed clean. So, you mean, you could argue they're different. They are different, ethnically, racially different. But at the base of it all, is there really that much of a difference? And tell me where and how. So what is it that we fear at the end of the day? And why are we voting at all? Does it really matter when the oligarchs run the country and have run the country from the beginning? It seems to me at a certain point, no matter who we elect, we get the same thing. I'm sad to tell you the truth. It seems to me that there doesn't seem to be that much of a difference. Trump speaks differently, but really what's different about this? What have we benefited from Donald Trump's presidency so far? Have we? And if so, where and how? I'm not talking about rhetoric. I'm talking about actual on-the-ground differences. After all, we read that there are more illegals coming over the border than ever before. Why? He's been president for a couple of years. What happened? How did that happen? Now, I know you don't want me to say these things. I know you want me to be a little good cheerleader here and jump up and down and say you must vote to save the country, get you all excited, but I'm not going to do that because I don't believe that that's my job. And secondly, I am an independent, and I've always kind of talked to an independent audience on this show. And although I talk about the insanity from the Salem witch trials to the Trump witch hunt, if you actually read my words, and many of you have bought the book, you'll see that I am not really that skewed to the far right as I am said to be by the vermin in the media. That's a whole different story, which is the media. And the media which is fanning the flames of racial hatred, which has people on the bottom go crazy and kill people. That's a separate story. What's going to happen if we vote and the Democrats win in very big numbers and Trump moves to the left to appease the people who are voting against him? Are you going to still support him? You know, it could happen. What if there's a huge Democrat victory? A huge victory of the Democrats, and Trump, being a politician at this point, sees which way the wind blows, and he moves to the left. Are you going to move with him? Are you going to do what Sean Hannity is liable to do? Are you going to do what Sean Hannity is expected to be a good water carrier for the administration? Because he may wind up a senator that way or an ambassador. There's one part of this administration that disturbs me the most, and I'm trying to separate my objective, flawless logic from my emotions. But it's very difficult for me to separate it when I've written about Beware the Government Media Complex. I wrote about that in 1998. I gave that speech at the Commonwealth Club. It was a time when Clinton and the media were one and the same. You remember that? And I wrote Beware the Government Media Complex. It's a famous speech in the annals of the Commonwealth Club. It happened only one time. And it's an important speech because I talked about the cozy relationship between, at the time, Bill Clinton and the Democrat Party. And the press, excuse me, between Bill Clinton and the press at the time. But now when I wake up and every day I see people being picked from the Fox News chorus line to be ambassadors, to be this one, to be that one, I ask myself, how different is this government media complex than that one? What would you have done? I'm asking you the questions that are very uncomfortable for me to even ask. What would you have done if Barack Obama had picked somebody from CNN to be his communications director, and then this communications director from CNN, or worse yet, MSNBC, only picked people from his network to be ambassadors, spokesmen, guests of the president? What would you be saying? Would you be saying anything different than I am? And again, I'm trying to separate me, Michael Savage, from my objective view of what's going on. And I'm trying to maintain an objectivity here in a time of total turmoil and madness as far as I am concerned. So I posted a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you again. Are you as excited about this election as you were about electing Trump? What has tamped your enthusiasm if it has gone down? Are you not voting in this election? If not, why? If 2016 was the biggest year for immigration, why hasn't Trump fixed it? Who would be more vicious as a speaker if the Dems win, Nancy or Maxine? What do you fear most about a Dem victory or a Repub victory? I think that's enough for now, and I shall be back in a minute.
Join the